Hello and welcome to the NBA Minutes to Win It podcast. I'm Big Italy 42. He's Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. Obviously, first Monday after the new year, we've had some big slates on Mondays. We got 10 tonight, and news just coming out that we were already on Russell Westbrook, of course, because it's the Kings and they're a horrible defensive team, and Westbrook owns them. But now Kevin Durant is out, so if you do not play Russell Westbrook tonight, then you deserve to lose your money. You should have already been playing him, but now you absolutely have to play him in every lineup and on every site. I mean, it's just, there's no way around it. But we'll make sure to say that to you again before the end of the podcast. But talking now position by position about all of the potential injury concerns. So we'll run down all of them quick and then talk about who we like. Steph Curry, questionable for tonight. Sat out 2 games, then left the last game after just 14 minutes. So certainly a concern there against Charlotte. Damian Lillard, of course, as he has been recently, is a game time decision, but maybe he's getting closer to return. We've been hearing for the last couple of days maybe he was, so definitely monitor that. We probably won't hear anything until right before the end. Jarrett Jack tore his ACL. He's out for the year. Tony Parker going to sit out tonight as well. We've got Elfrid Payton, has a bruised left ankle and is questionable. Only played 16 minutes his last game, so he's not really a guy that I'm going to be playing anyway. But George Hill, news coming out now that he has food poisoning. He's now questionable. Jeremy Lin is questionable with lower back tightness, even though he played 34 minutes last game. I believe that's all of the just for point guard. So thanks for tuning in. There's your point guard news for the day. But either way, Russell Westbrook, of course. So I guess we'll do the fallout from these other guys. Damian Lillard, of course, if he sits. CJ McCollum, but his price is getting really far up there, and it's Memphis, but it's not peak years Memphis. This is not the defensive team that it once was, so certainly not the must play that Westbrook will be on this huge slate, but certainly a guy you need to consider if Lillard sits.
Yeah, and Mike Conley is questionable tonight, so that would give McCollum a bump as well. He's been playing a lot of the point guard spot lately and playing it well, so his peripheral stats, go up when Lillard's out, as we've seen, but if Lillard does come back tonight, I probably won't be on McCollum at that price just because Westbrook takes up most of my salary. So
yeah, absolutely. One guy that I think is going to be even more interesting now that Durant is out is Rajon Rondo, who, as we know, Russell Westbrook can defend well. He doesn't generally take the effort to defend well. In a game like this where he's going to be relied on heavily to score a lot, you don't imagine that he's going to be playing a lot of one-on-one defense against Rondo. And obviously Rondo not much of a scoring threat, but this seems like the perfect type of game. I'm sure we won't be the only people on these two, but you pair these two in a couple lineups because, there's enormous upside with these two guys tonight.
Yeah, Vegas has this one as the highest total on the night as expected. So without Durant, I think obviously Sacramento should keep this one close. I think you got to look at pretty much their entire lineup as being nice contrarian moves, especially we were talking about Omri Caspi before the show. No Durant, so no lengthy defender on him, and as we've seen, the guy can shoot the 3 ball, so could be a solid mid-value play there.
Yeah, light it up. Outside of that, we've got Ricky Rubio is playing very well recently. He's facing Philadelphia. Obviously, he gives you a nice high floor. Hasn't even shot the ball well recently, but still producing really high level. Right around 40 fantasy points in 4 of his last 5. On the opposite side of him, Ish Smith still in play for me on FanDuel at $5,700, but I'm not paying $6,900 for him on DraftKings, and even on FanDuel, I'm hesitant on this big slate because there's a lot of better values. But he certainly does have the ability to have a big game. But I'm certainly not playing him in cash games tonight.
No, I'm with you there. He's 200 less than Ricky Rubio on DK, so that's a no for me. Going value, Shane Larkin's going to get a big minutes bump with Jarrett Jack out. Tough matchup against Boston, who's been good against point guards this season. But for his price tag, it's not a bad option.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think Shane Larkin's one of the better cash game plays to pair with Westbrook there. Outside of that, obviously we've got the Spurs situation with Tony Parker being out. Ray McCallum probably going to get the start, but I'm going to go with the more talented offensive player in Patty Mills. Neither one of these guys is, a tremendous play. I'd still rather have Shane Larkin because you still expect neither one of these guys probably going to play more than 25 minutes, but in those limited number of minutes, I'm going Patty Mills 100% of the time.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And also Ginobili could see a nice little bump there in usage, handling the point guard spot in his 15 to 20 minutes off the bench that he gets for being an old man.
Yeah, exactly. If George Hill does end up sitting with that food poisoning, it's not going to be likely a point guard that's going to have any extra value. What it's going to come down to really is going to be Monte Ellis, Point Ellis, running the point here. And we have seen him let people down in that spot before, but has been playing well recently, finally, after a slow start of the season. So you might be able to get, if George Hill sits, a nice value point guard with some upside under 6K at shooting guard tonight. So I think that if George Hill sits, Monte Ellis will be one of my first cash game plays also.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, he's played 2 games against the Heat this season. He's done pretty well. He went 14-7 or averaged 14-7-4 in both those games. So for that price tag, I mean, Ellis definitely has some upside and a solid cash game and tournament play.
Yeah, definitely. Moving over to shooting guard now. Giannis obviously has a chipped tooth, I guess, but he's going to play tonight. Not much of a relevant injury, I guess. Avery Bradley's still going to be out, of course. Outside of that, you got Marcus Thornton as a game time decision, but that's not relevant.
I think he's out.
He is out. Okay.
Yeah, he's listed as out tonight.
So, I mean, that slightly bumps a few guys, but nothing significant there. And like you mentioned, we've got, of course, Manu Ginobili, who could see some extra minutes as well. One more guy, only for some minutes, I guess, that changed a little bit. Leandro Barbosa's still out, so guys like Ian Clark will probably still get a couple minutes, but you're not playing them on a big slate anyway.
Yeah, if Jeremy Lamb sits as well as Batum, or one of the two does, I said Jeremy Lin. Jeremy Lamb will get some minutes in what should be a high-scoring game for Charlotte and Golden State.
Yeah, absolutely. Some other guys, if Steph Curry sits, of course, Klay Thompson going to get a bump. Struggled in that first game, but since then, in the last 2 games, I guess I know Curry didn't actually sit the last game, but only played 14 minutes, so he essentially did. And Thompson over 40 fantasy points each of the last 2 games, so he gets a big bump if Curry's out. Obviously, James Harden is your highest upside play, but at $10,000 with guys like Russell Westbrook that you have to play, I think he's a good contrarian play, so go under the radar, but not a cash game guy for me tonight.
No, I'm definitely with you there. I mean, Harden, haven't really been on him in a long time, it seems like, and a matchup against a slow-paced Utah team on the road. I'm just not a fan at his price.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Shooting guard, other guys, Rodney Hood is absolutely on fire right now. Over the last 2 games, he went 18-7-6, then 32-8. Obviously, this has been a guy who's let us down before, but finally starting to see higher usage rate and some bigger upside. So it's a guy that probably going to be higher owned than you'd like in tournaments, but I don't think he's a bad cash game option tonight, though, at his price at all.
No, a nice matchup against Houston. I think even if he kind of gives you that 21, 22-point dud, he's going to be pretty high owned, so I don't think it'll hurt you too bad.
No, not at all. One more guy I know that you were on, minutes eater, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a guy who he doesn't have a phenomenal floor, but you know he's going to play big minutes. I mean, upper 30s, if not into the 40s, and not a bad matchup here tonight against Orlando here.
Yeah, I like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He's one of those guys who can get you 30-plus fantasy points at a pretty cheap shooting guard salary. And I think he's cash game play, I mean, he's got a lower floor than I like, but definitely for tournaments, if he can get you into that 30 fantasy point range, you should be sitting pretty.
Yeah, definitely. One more guy, if Alfred Payton sits, Victor Oladipo might see some extra run. He's cheap, but he also has a really low floor, so he's definitely GPP only.
Yep.
Small forward, obviously Kevin Durant, the big injury, he's out. Nicholas Batum sat out last game, kind of a late
that was a surprise.
There. Yeah, that was a guy that I didn't have time to get out of all of my tournament lineups, but definitely keep your eye on that. So if he sits, you already mentioned Jeremy Lamb, of course, going to get himself a nice bump. Outside of that, Harrison Barnes is still an injury concern, but he's probable to come back today after missing, I think it's about 15 games by now. So monitor that. DeMarre Carroll is back, but has not been playing particularly well and been playing in the mid-20s of minutes. They're talking about how he's been tentative playing through his injury. Maybe some smoke and mirrors. Not a guy you're playing at that price with his low minutes anyway, but something to maybe keep an eye on there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, small forward's kind of ugly tonight. I mean, you want to pay up, but there's not a lot of options. Matt Barnes is back tonight after being suspended for his manhunt of Derek Fisher. So,
and he's still reasonably priced on FanDuel, 5,100. So,
yeah.
And on DraftKings, he still has that little out symbol next to him, and I don't know if that'll change before tonight. But
they took it off.
Okay, so it's fixed now. But either way, now that he's been gone for a couple games, he was playing well in most games prior to that. So definitely a guy to keep your eye on.
Yeah.
Paul George finally starting to play again like the guy we knew earlier in the season. He gets a matchup with Miami, which is not an ideal one, but obviously Paul George, Luol Deng, there's whether he's playing the 3, the 4, I mean, there's a significant advantage for Paul George as long as he's shooting well tonight.
Yeah, he's dominated Miami this season. He's averaged 29 and 10 in 2 games against them. So I think still a tournament play just because he's still a bit higher price and I'm spending my money elsewhere. But um, I guess a nice contrarian move. I don't think people will be on Paul George tonight.
Yeah, I don't either. Derek Favors still listed as questionable. Obviously, he sat out the last 5 games, so keep your eye on that. Obviously, for guys like Gordon Hayward to get bumps. Outside of him at power forward, really no significant injury concerns. Modi Yunus is out, but that doesn't really matter to especially a big slate like this. Outside of that, I mean, Chris Bosh has played really well, facing it off against Indiana tonight. Obviously, Draymond Green priced at almost 10K tonight, but coming off of just about the best game that you'll ever see from a power forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was insane. That was, if you want to go back in time and to the Michael Jordan era and even before and Larry Bird and want to know what DraftKings points was, Draymond Green did it.
Yeah.
That's what Larry Bird would have put up. That's what guys like Michael Jordan would have put up.
It's absolutely insane what he did. Obviously, Serge Ibaka gets a bump here. He's a guy that didn't play great when Durant had sat out before, when he sat out those 5 games, but certainly a guy that you're considering because power forward's a pretty weak position tonight. Thad Young against Boston, another guy that's in play. He's just been a pretty solid cash game play just about every night this season. So outside of that, I mean, you got cheap guys like Tristan Thompson, Cody Zeller, and I'm not a big fan of really anything else on this big slate tonight.
Yeah, Kevin Love, not a bad option. I don't think. I mean, he's kind of been getting back to his ways. I mean, the Cavs have been involved in a lot of blowouts lately, so he's only averaging about 29 minutes over the last 5 games, but averaging 11 and 11, not bad. And had a decent game against Toronto earlier this season when he went 21-13. So I think that one could be competitive and kind of a sneaky one because I don't think a lot of people are going to be on that game for fantasy.
Yeah, that's a good point. And 2 more guys that you had brought up earlier when we were talking their cheap options. Aaron Gordon, 26, 25, 26 minutes last 3 games. He's played pretty well. And Boris Diaw been playing low to mid 20s in minutes as well. And in a game that the Spurs are favored by a lot, maybe he gets a little extra run. So if you need some cheap guys, those aren't bad targets for you there either.
Yeah, I mean, there's talks of Orlando really shifting around the lineup tonight, and that would mean Aaron Gordon sliding into that starting power forward role instead of Channing Frye. So I like Gordon, but definitely a risky play,
Yeah,
as any Orlando player is.
yeah, absolutely. Next up, we've got center. Obviously, DeMarcus Cousins, the center on FanDuel, power forward on DraftKings. He's really cheap in this matchup relative to his upside. Granted, he hasn't had that upside game recently, but is coming off a game in just 27 minutes where he put up 32 and 9 against Phoenix. So he certainly has the upside, and this is a game that the Kings, I mean, we mentioned the highest total. You're going to have Russell Westbrook attacking the basket over and over and over, maybe some chances for some extra blocks for him. It's not like that's going to deter for Westbrook from attacking, so certainly some big upside for him. But if you're looking on DraftKings for center, Brook Lopez has got to be your guy. He's been unbelievable recently. Great against Boston so far. Just played the same Boston team. Put up his highest point total. Not fantasy point total, but actual point total this season. I mean, he's just been tremendous. FanDuel, he's kind of priced into GPP territory, but on DraftKings, I'm playing him all over.
Yeah, me too, definitely. I mean, yeah, you mentioned that Boston game. He went 30 and 13. Game before, he went 24 and 15 with 5 blocks and 3 steals. So, I mean, the guy's playing really well right now, and he is their offensive weapon as well as pretty much one of their only rebounders outside of Thaddeus Young. So, I mean, you can just count on him for an easy double-double tonight with plenty of upside. So, I'm all over Brook Lopez.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of other good centers to be looked at here. You got Karl Anthony Towns, who's playing really well. He gets Philly tonight. You've got Dwight Howard, who's actually playing pretty well in Utah, obviously without Rudy Gobert down low. They've really struggled to defend. And I mean, Howard, 30 and 16, 21-13, 22 and 12 in his last 3. And in some tough matchups, too. Golden State and San Antonio. So he's a guy that's still really overlooked, but I think he's a really good tournament target tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Especially at that price, he's got big-time upside. And like you mentioned, Utah's really been struggling, rebounding as well as defending inside with all their injuries. So if Favors does that, I mean, Howard should have that paint to himself.
Yeah. One more guy I definitely want to mention, Enes Kanter. His minutes have been low to mid 20s for the most part, but he's been really, really productive in that amount of time. And obviously, you got Steven Adams. These guys are going to have to battle down low with DeMarcus Cousins. Steven Adams way more foul prone, so I tend to think Kanter will end up getting more run anyway, but maybe even extended run past that if and probably when Steven Adams gets in foul trouble.
Yeah, Kanter's definitely, I mean, fantasy points per minute, he's been great. Just those minutes have always been kind of inconsistent, but like you said, we can't anticipate foul trouble, but kind of. I would actually lean that way. I think Adams could get into foul trouble pretty early.
Yeah, absolutely. So either way, and I guess we would be remiss if we didn't mention Andre Drummond against Orlando. He's had some big games against and priced up there by some more popular plays as well. So on this huge slate, I think center is the place where I'm going to have the most diversity. I'm going to be mixing in all these guys where I can.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Drummond, just 9,200 on DK, which compared to those other elite plays, not bad.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to wrap things up here for us for this Monday. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out the rest of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.